Okay, so this morning, at one point, I looked over at the clock and it was like 11:12. And since I see it at 11:11 so often, what that usually signals to me when it's just like right a minute after is that I need to regroup and maybe reevaluate what's going on to better find my alignment. And, I was mentioned yesterday some stuff that was frazzling. Um, Saw a picture that threw me off guard and kind of made everything just feel icky, right? And it wasn't a bad picture, it just made me feel icky. So, um, I came over here and skated my 5 miles. Talked about a lot of stuff in the video after I skated that I hadn't really anticipated talking about, but I did, of course, eventually get to what the big thing was, which was like actually seeing a picture of the counterpart in a connection, right? And, like I've talked many times on here, it's like I've never met this dude in person, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? But it's like this whole journey, the whole counterpart connection in and of itself, it's literally been the thing that has forced me to keep processing through some of the stuff that I wouldn't have wanted to go into otherwise. Like all the stuff with my family, especially. It basically, took me to the edge of situations and forced me to look more closely at what's going on at a deeper level, right? So I've realized because of the connection that I've always ended up having the tendency to hide, right? That's been my go-to in life, and like, how it came out into my awareness was I was having all these dreams, and it always seemed like there was an important scene that was taking place in the bathroom. And one day I was just like, why am I having so many dreams in which I'm hiding out in a bathroom stall? And what came to me was that I've literally spent most of my life hiding, right? It's like I always shrinking myself down and trying to reject certain things about myself because it wasn't deemed acceptable by the world that I existed in. So, like especially with stuff with my family, like, going back to my bear picture, which I come to frequently because that was one of the things that this year that I was really forced to look at and to realize what was going on at a deeper level. And with that, so I took a bunch of pictures at the zoo, Zubu in 2023, and that was the day that it felt like my counterpart's energy was right there with me in person the entire day. Obviously, there's no physical person there, but I felt his energy very present with me all day. And it's like, even though like I was completely aware of what was happening actually in my physical reality with, being there with my mom, my aunt, and my niece, at this other level that nobody else was aware of, it felt like he was there too. And we were having conversations in my head about like different stuff with the animals even. Like I remember, when we got to the bears, it's like just the way they were both sitting. One of them was leaning forward on the rock, and he kind of had his front feet like he was holding his hands or something, but something about his position was cute and made me laugh because it reminded me of Taz. And because Taz always likes to sit with his feet crossed, and he looks very demure is the word that's coming to mind, but I'm not sure if I'm using that one correctly at this point in time because that's not a word I use a lot. But just like he's got this air of sophistication that he doesn't normally have because he's like full on heathen. This is a blue healer, so full on heathen. But there was that one, but then the other one was sitting there looking like he was having an existential crisis. And he was just, mostly submerged in the water, but he had his feet poking up in front of him, the back feet, I think. And just the way he was sitting it caught my attention. I was like, I hope he stays in that position long enough for me to get a picture. And I got one real quick that, before I zoomed in to make sure that I got the picture. But then I zoomed in on my phone a bit more to see if I could get a better picture. And I did. So in fall of 2024, the zoo sent out an email. Of course, we had a membership because we had Gracie and we're going frequently for the 3 years that she was around, and we were all around and could do it. So we had the zoo membership, and I was getting emails because it was in my name. My mom figured that was the best option, was to put it in my name, and then that way, if my brother and sister-in-law wanted to go at some point, and my mom didn't want to go or couldn't go, then it would be easier for me to just go anytime anybody decided to go. And I would usually be up for it, right? So unless I had something else going on, there's a good chance I would be open to going to the zoo. So since it was in my name, I got the email, and the email was talking about their spring-summer newsletter, and they were looking for photo submissions for the centerfold of the spring-summer edition of their magazine. And because that was like, as far as I could tell with the email that I got, that was the extent of the prize. And like nobody had acknowledged the pictures that I had put on, Facebook or anywhere else. And it's like, unless they had Gracie in them or something. And it's like, you know what, maybe somebody else will get some enjoyment out of my pictures because I really liked them. I thought, especially the bears and my tigress. That was the day I got the tigress staring at me. And I got this picture of the elephants that I thought was going to be terrible because it looked like I don't know, there was just something weird about it when I took the picture, but then when I went back, it's like, I'm gonna probably have to delete that one because I thought it was blurry. But when I looked at it, it was that the sun had like this haze around it, but otherwise the picture looked like a freaking poster. And so it was my day that I got all these cool pictures. So this contest thing comes up, and I put in for the contest with only the thought that maybe somebody else would get some enjoyment out of the picture, or a picture, right? So I did that. Had I thought there was any kind of prize package with it, I would not have done it. So that was one of those things that I had to kind of process through, right? But the biggest thing was, I sent the lady my 3 pictures. The pictures of the elephants, the tigress, and the bear. And then, I was like completely detached from it. It's like, whatever happens, cool. If nothing happens, cool. It's not like I'm out anything. It's just maybe somebody else would get some enjoyment out of it. And so I went ahead and entered this contest. At some point in there, I realized that had there been a prize package mentioned, I think it might have been once I found out I won and that they said they were putting together a prize package for me. Had they said anything about a prize in the email, I would not have entered the contest, period. And what the prize package ended up being was 4 tickets for like free animal feedings or rides. So it's like, I really had to sit with that point that if I had known there was a prize, I would not have entered the contest because I did not deem myself good enough or worthy enough to win something. And so I wouldn't have put forth the effort into it, period, if there was a prize. And so, I really had to sit with that point for a while. It's like, how silly would it have been to not enter this contest that my picture ended up winning just because there was the possibility of a prize beyond my picture supposed to be the centerfold of this magazine. I say supposed to be because it ended up as, I feel like this is pretty standard my luck. The picture that was supposed to be the centerfold got flipped. So the two pictures that were supposed to be on either side of the centerfold were at the centerfold. And my picture was split in half because, half of the pictures on one side and half the pictures on the other side. But that's true to my luck, really. But yeah, like I wouldn't have done it, period, otherwise, if knowing that there was anything more than that. And then it was like, how silly would it have been to not take the chance because I didn't deem myself worthy of winning 4 free passes to do something at the zoo, whether it's feeding the animals or go on a ride, right? And Gracie loved the damn roller coaster, so so that was one of those things that was really, I think because there's so many layers to it as well, because there's that stuff that I just talked about, but then as further revelation to why I wouldn't have deemed myself worthy, when I found out that I won the contest, of course, since I have to live at home right now with my parents, and it's less than ideal, very less than ideal, but at the same time, very necessary because I'm learning a lot of these lessons and realizing why I have been so completely stuck or felt so completely bound to this place. So what happened with that part was I find out I won this contest, and my mom, my aunt, and I had just dropped Gracie off at school and then ran over to the gas station, and I went in with my aunt, and she and my mom had their Diet Coke habit. I don't know if I was getting anything at that point in time, because at some point my aunt went out of town and I fasted, and then I broke my Dr. Pepper habit completely, and I have minimally touched it since then, and it kind of makes me sick now, so, which I don't see that as a problem. It has contributed to weight loss, and I don't feel as sick very much if I have, today's not my ideal day for that part, because, I have decided that I'm going to fast for probably the final days of this month of this year, but I was thinking about it this morning, and it's like I still have deviled eggs in the fridge. And since that's kind of my thing for the holidays, it's like, screw it, I'm going to eat those. So today I will not fast, and then tomorrow and the last few days of the month/year I will fast. And so because of my deviled eggs and not wanting to waste them, be it to the trash or to my father, I decided not to do that today. So today is, I'm going to finish up the food that I like that's really bad for me, and then we'll clear it out for the last few days and, start afresh for the new year. So I had this monkey bread stuff that my mom made. There's a whole lot of sugar. And I came over here and was walking the dogs, and it's like, I'm gonna throw up. It's like, oh, it just was not sitting right at all. Anyways, we're better now. But because there was still some of the tasty food left, we will do the fast thing tomorrow. But I don't remember where we were for the gas station, but I went in with my aunt, and again, that's one of those things. That's a side note that's not really important, but here we are, because I wander the side paths, whether needed or not. So we go in, and I tell her, I just found out that I won. I think my mom was on, or had my brother on the phone in the car. And so my aunt was the first person I told, because, that was, the thing happened, and then we went inside. And she thought it was really cool, and then of course, from there, we went back home, and I went to try to print off the form to give the zoo permission to use my picture. And in that time, I had this tiny little malfunction where I hit print on my phone before I double checked with the printer to make sure it was actually on. And because of that, it got all sorts of hung up and took way longer than it should have. I was fighting with it for like 10 minutes. My mom was sitting at the table. She knew by this point in time what was going on. My dad was sitting in the family room, which is the room the printer's in. And my mom gets all excited because I'm having issues, and well, ask your dad for help. It's like, I don't want to ask him for help, right? So, he comes in with, well, what's it doing? And I, was irritated because they didn't need to be any part of what was going on. I was having my own little frustrations, but I was going to fix it on my own, and it wasn't going to be a big issue. And then, she says to bring him into it, and then he puts himself into it. And it ends up being this ordeal where, the sole purpose of me asking him for help was so he could make me feel stupid and feel better about himself, because I needed his assistance to save me again, and it ended up putting a damper on the day to the point where I freaking spent the rest of the day crying on and off, because I was so upset with, I won this thing and they literally found a way to make it about themselves and hijack the moment away from me. And it's one of those things, it's like, I wouldn't have learned that lesson, that's literally something they have done all of my life, had I not been in that space. So it's one of those things, it's like, on the one hand, it is a pain in the ass living there. On the other hand, these are the lessons I've needed to help me disconnect and realize that when I get out of that space, I don't ever want to go back to that space. Even though sometimes I sound wishy-washy on it. I mentioned yesterday, I think the two of the cards that I pulled from the Mystical Shaman Oracle deck the other day. I had done a video, and I mentioned that, it's like with my dad, if I left this place and never spoke to him again, that doesn't bother me at all. If he dies before I leave this place, that won't bother me at all. I do not feel any warm and fuzzy connection to that man, right? And of course, one of the things that I have realized with that connection in the past week and a half, is that because I had this bullshit idea that I was raised with, where, that the idea of being your father's property until you're your husband's property, realizing that my father resented me all of my life, and the reason I felt like such a burden was because he made me feel like that, and then realizing that essentially I went from being my father's trash to being my ex-husband's trash, because I didn't value myself either, because that's what I was used to, right? One of the other lessons that was really big and important for me this past year was I want to say it was like March, probably. There was a incident where a bird put a nest in the rose bush in front of our picture window. And I opened the curtains one day, and there's a little speckled brown speckled egg in the nest. So it's like, I thought it was a sparrow, just because that's what I thought. Ended up being wrong, which I found the next day when I opened the curtains, and the mama bird flew out, and it turned out it was a mama cardinal, right? So then it's like, now I feel like I want to be extra careful so she can have her nest there, and so we don't mess anything up with it and all this, right? And, I went in there and was talking to my parents and said, oh, apparently it's a cardinal, right? And so, I feel like I want to be more careful about the curtains and, leave her the space if she chooses to stay there. But then the next day, my dad goes through and, throws them open, which normally, when it comes to opening curtains and stuff, that's my job. Just because I'm the one that gives a rip if there's daylight in the house or not. And the house doesn't get good daylight, but all the same, I like natural light where we can bring it in, right? So I'm the one that opens curtains. But that day, he threw them open. Well, since it was day 2 of the mama cardinal being around, she sat on the branch for a little bit and looked really stressed out. And then the next time I went in there, I saw that there wasn't an egg in there anymore. And I mentioned it to my mom, and she made it sound like I was just the biggest idiot in the world. What do you think it did? Took it away to another nest? It's like, no, I think it knocked it out of the nest because it deemed this spot was not safe. And that was what ended up happening, right? I go out and check, and the eggs busted open on the foundation. So it's like what I thought happened, but my mom had to make it sound like I was the biggest idiot in the world for thinking that that was the thing that happened, but then that was what happened. But then, within a couple days of the incident, when I was writing about it, I really sat with that point. It's like, that right there. It's like, the mama bird deemed that this was not a safe space to have that egg and to bring that little baby bird in that space, because it wasn't safe, right? So she destroys the egg because it's not safe. That egg is like everything in my life that I've ever shifted into self-sabotage on, because it's not safe to do anything, to try anything, and have it be something that I might want to be anything worthwhile for, right? Because my parents are not safe, right? And very much, it's like, whether it's just tearing me down and trying to make me feel like I'm the biggest idiot in the world because, I have this assumption that the mama bird knocked the egg out of the nest to destroy it, and my mom's mocking me, acting like I think she packed it up and carried it off to another nest. It's like, that is exactly why I've not tried harder on doing things, why I've not put forth the effort to create something better for my life, right? For myself. Is because every chance I've ever gotten in my life to do something, they find a way to either make it about them or completely destroy it for me. So, since it's not a safe space, it's not a safe space to try to do things, right? Even with this whole channel, right? The entire time that I have been doing these, it has very intentionally been at a time that my family's not around and doesn't know what I'm doing. And honestly, I think it drives my mom nuts every time I leave the house and then don't tell her where I'm going. It's like, don't worry about it. There's one day not that long ago, I was getting ready to leave, and she says, where are you going? I said, out. She's like, where to? Out. And I just left. She's like, you know, and then we've had this conversation in text messages too, and then it's always a geez in response or something like that, like I'm somehow doing something wrong, right? And that goes back to that point where, you know, I've talked a lot on here about how me and my brother, derailed, you know, how we would, we weren't raised to, we were raised with the idea that if you are keeping secrets, it's because you are doing something wrong. But in reality, if we are keeping secrets from our family, it's because we want something to have a shot at existing and surviving without them fucking it up and destroying it, right? 555 is mentioning that. But like they try to get in the middle of everything all the time, so that's not even a possibility. But it's a pain in the ass, right? So, you know, so I've been doing these videos. I will do them at home if nobody is around, and I expect them to be on for a long time. There have been a couple videos where they've shown up in the middle of it, but, you know, thankfully with the dogs, you know, I can close it out or go somewhere else before, or to finish it. You know, but that hasn't always worked. But usually I go somewhere else. So it's like, that is exactly why there's been that disconnect, right? So anyway, I don't know how I meandered all that path. I think something with the twin flame stuff. Okay, so there's the thing that came up yesterday where, you know, okay, going back to the fact that initially, back in like 2019, at the start of 2020, somewhere in there, I had this thought of I would never get any other social media beyond Facebook because it seems like everybody that I would care to connect with is already on Facebook, right? Then I got this really strong pull in like September 2020 that I was supposed to get on Instagram. So I got on Instagram. It's like, okay, what do you do on Instagram? I don't know what the space is. So, you know, it's like, okay, so it looks like you just follow a bunch of people, right? So I started following different bands and musicians from the bands and whatnot. And, you know, other creators that I find on YouTube or wherever else, or just, you know, they pop up on the freaking Instagram thing. All right, sounds interesting enough. So I was doing that, right? So that ended up being how I found the counterpart. And, you know, I've talked many times. It is probably one of the most mentioned things now that I've been talking about the twin flame connection, that the live stream that he did where I said something and he responded. It's like, because there was that momentary connection, it was like all sorts of weird shit started happening for me. And there were like 7 dreams that he appeared in over a few months. Some of them, at one point I used to text myself my dreams so I could remember them and write them down somewhere else. At some point I came back to that. It's like, if I ever met these people, they would think I was crazy. Because it wasn't just him. It was also like people in his, the different bands that he was in that were connected to, that were in several of them as well. But it was like, okay, so I deleted them out. But there were at least 3 that he was in very clearly that I remember. But I'm not going into those this time around. This is just for the point of the connection, and weird stuff started happening, right? So I've already followed him because, you know, he was in the band that I had recently found out about and I really liked. And then I just started following a bunch of people, and he seemed somehow familiar, but that was pretty much the extent of it, right? But then with the moment on the live stream, it was like I was a mouse running through the kitchen and somebody flipped the light on. right? So it's like this panic of, I've been spotted, right? And of course, going back to the dreams that I've already mentioned, where I was always hiding out in the bathroom, where some point was hiding out in the bathroom in the dream, what I realized was that was a means of me trying to not be seen, right? And that wasn't exclusively in the dream world. That was largely what I did, like throughout high school anyway. You know, every passing period that we had, I would go and duck into the bathroom as a means of not being seen by peers, because my life demonstrated that the peers were not safe. It was not safe to be around these people, right? Because I frequently got made fun of or whatever. So hiding out ended up being a thing that I did often. And of course, on this whole process with all my crab placements, that has been one of those things that's been very important in teaching for me on this journey, is the fact that, you know, like I had the one thing that I've talked about a few times, where I was listening to this song on YouTube on repeat, and I was in, like, physically, I was in my room putting away clothes. But then in my head, I was yelling at my mom and my grandmother about, essentially, just because you stay in the toxic relationship doesn't mean you did so out of love. It means you did so because you were afraid that there wouldn't ever be anything better if you left that situation. It's like you stayed out of fear, not out of love. And then, like, I shifted, and then I was, like, in this space of this music video happening, and I just found myself kind of, like, needing to find a wall and, like, to curl up in front of and put my hood over my head. And, you know, in that space, I was talking to these guys in this music video about how I felt. What I was saying was, have you ever seen a hermit crab without its shell? It's like, it's so very awkward, you know, and kind of goofy looking. And I focused on the part about feeling exposed. But then as I was writing about it later, I had the real, you know, I had that intuitive voice chimes in and says, but they have to come out of their shell because they've grown, you know, and the exposure is a part of growth. So yes, they feel like they're exposed for a time, but they're going to end up back in another shell and everything's going to be fine. But for that moment, they have to go find a bigger shell, one that's more suitable. And it's like, oh, so I got fixated on the exposure piece and not as connected to the growth piece. So then I had to deal with the growth piece, right? It was a lot easier, I think, once I realized that and stopped being so caught up on the exposure piece, because it's like, this is a part of growth. That's fair. That makes sense. But anyway, so I feel like I hold my breath a whole lot when I'm talking, and then need to figure out how to breathe and speak in a better space. Anyway, so because I follow him on social media, and of course I got into his music, so I was following him on, like, you know, a bunch, you know, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. So anyway, Instagram pops up this picture, and in it, he's got a girl hanging on his neck, right? And it's like, everything in me was just like, and like, it felt like the bottom just, like, fell out of things. And it's like, I was immediately sick to my stomach. And one of the first things that popped into my head was challenging whether this thing that has literally been the thing keeping me moving forward is in fact actually happening. Like, this is actually something at this, you know, other level of existence you know, if it's actually the thing that's moving me forward or if I'm just completely delusional. It's like there was immediately the moment of everything you know is wrong. And I had to sit with that thought for a minute. It's like, no, that cannot be, because this version of me literally does not exist without this connection existing, right? It has been the thing that at times when I, you know, was getting to some of the difficult things to process, you know, was the thing that was like, had me by the hand and was like pulling me into the thing, even though it was scary and potentially very painful, right? It was something that, yeah, this sucks, but we got to go through it. And so I did it, right? And it's like this version literally does not exist without this whole connection, right? Because like even this whole YouTube thing, the reason I started it was because I realized he had to be in a spotlight for me to find him, but how was he ever going to find me if I didn't start doing more than I'd ever done, right? So I started the thing, even though my entire life has attempted to keep me from using my voice in various ways, right? And, you know, I was like, I gotta do it. So I did it. And this is, you know, a little over 2 years in. And I think I'm at like, this will probably be video 356 or 7 at this point in time. I'll have to check that out. And then 357 is a number that was coming up for a little while when I worked at, Amazon back in 2020. It's like every time I woke up in the middle of the night and looked at the clock, it was like 357. It's like, what is going on with that? I've looked up the numbers a few times, but anyway, but like that was the biggest thing, was do the hard thing, overcome the terror of using your voice by doing it, right? Just doing the hard thing. And you don't have to know what's going to come of it or why you are even doing it, but you have to do it. And so I did, right? And so this is a result of me processing through so much of this heavy shit, right? So anyway, so I wake up this morning and I see 11:12 because, you know, this picture shows up yesterday. And, you know, immediately I have this moment of everything you know is wrong. And then I'm trying to make sense of everything that I've learned in the past couple of years. And then this thing that's come up, and it's like, so one thing that I did before I went over to my grandma's was scrubbed him and the bands that he's connected to, like in any way connected to that I know of, off Instagram completely. Like I don't know who they are, right? That's the space we're going into. I don't know who these people are. I don't know their music. Not familiar with it. You just, you know, we know nothing. So that was something I did before I went over to my grandma's house. So then afterwards I skated, came over here. When I went back home after I did my video, I started out, I was just going to take a shower, and it's like, I need the rose salt, right? So, like, anytime, you know, rose is one of the highest frequency scents that there is, and, like, one of the most productive ways of raising your vibration in a short span of time. At one point I had this like rose water spray that I got from Inner Path, and anytime I was around my family, I would like go back to the bathroom and just like spray myself with this rose spray for like 5 or 6 times. It's like, yep, got to get that out of my system. So I gave that to my brother and Gracie when they were getting ready to move, and they probably just lost it. But yeah. Anyway, since I don't have any of that, we gotta go with the rose salt. So I went from, I'm going to take a shower because I just got done skating, and then it's like, nope, I gotta soak. And so I did for a little while. And then I got to a point where He was like, I gotta scrub all things that are any kind of hints that he exists out of my space. And so I went through, I cleared out Instagram. I haven't done Facebook yet. I need to get to that one. But I'm not really on there a whole lot either. Probably next time I'm on. Anyway, I feel like I'm going to be largely not on those things either, because I don't want to. Right? I don't want to have this thing come up that, like, challenge the foundation that I had thought I had built and was, pretty secure upon, and then it's like there's a fucking earthquake and now I don't know what to do with anything. So, I just went through everything. YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook still needs to happen. And, like, anything, him or any of his bandmates, doesn't matter what band, or people that he's ever worked with, it's like they're all gone. It's like, I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. And one of the things that, because of course that's something that he has put together in his physical existence. So for me to connect with it is connecting with that, it's essentially pulling on his physical energy through this thing that he put out in the physical world, right? And I don't want any part of that. So I scrubbed all the things, and honestly, one of the things that happened that I'm actually kind of excited about was I rediscovered some songs that, like, I had forgotten all about. And one of them, so I'm shifting more back into my swing music days, electro swing. And there's a song that I found a few years ago, somewhere in the past 5 years. It's called Nicknackatory, and it's by Mr. B, the Gentleman Rhymer. And like I started listening to it. I was over at my grandma's house last night when I was going through some of the stuff on Spotify, and I found that in a playlist. It's like, oh yeah. So I started playing it, and then I just started listening to it, and it's like, yes, I love this. I forgot that I loved this song so much. So we're gonna revisit shit I forgot. Also, Man with the Hex by the Atomic Fireballs is pretty stellar. So that's what, we're kind of shifting back to, right? But anyway, I was disconnecting from all the things, right? But as I was finding myself doing this, because I don't need this stuff in my space when it's something he put out in the physical with his physical. I don't want it, right? And I mentioned yesterday in the video that I did that as I was skating around here, it's like I kept having these visions pop into my head where, like, he would show up in front of me in some way and I would just kind of like sidestep and go around, or somebody would bring him over to introduce him to me, and I was like, nope. Like, went the other way and that kind of stuff. And it got worse, right? So that was while I was skating, and I mentioned it in the video. And then I went home and, scrubbed this other stuff further. And, but before that, took a bath and tried to clear it out of my system, get all the icky feelings away, raise my vibration and all that fun stuff. And when I went to bed, I had like 25 different things pop into my head where it's just like it was like, like he was trying to still be there. And it finally got to a point where I found it was like a sound bath thing from the Healing Vibrations page. And it was like for insomniacs. It's like, you know what? Normally I wouldn't describe myself as an insomniac, but I feel like I probably could here because I feel like my sleep schedule's been like so all over the place that I feel like it's kind of acceptable, and I have a hard time falling asleep some nights and staying asleep other nights, and sometimes I wake up and then I can't go back to sleep, but then it was like, I tried this Healing and Beyond ASMR Reiki thing for sleep. And it's worked multiple times, but last night I listened to it twice and it wasn't touching it, right? And like these visions just kept popping up. And when I kept ignoring them, the damn picture popped back up into my head and it's like, no! So I got this, I got the healing vibration sound bath for insomniacs. It's like, all right, we're doing this. And it's like anytime his face came to mind, it was just like, no! You know, like he's talking to me. No! You cannot be in this space, right? So I finally fell asleep and slept decently. Woke up a couple times, but went back to sleep with the same thing going. And then when I look at the clock and it's 11:12, you know, I'm sitting with that. Like, what does this mean? It's like, I know this means for me that I'm 555 again, slightly off in some way, slightly out of alignment. What is the issue, right? So what I realized was it's perfectly fine and acceptable to clear him out of everything that, you know, like all the things, the social media things or whatever. That is good, right? And of course it was a pain in the ass because he had his music in so many different playlists on Spotify. And then I got to a point where if it was showing up in the playlist, I deleted a bunch of playlists just to make sure. There was one that I couldn't delete for some reason, and it kept staying right there front and center on the thing. So I cleared his songs out of it and put all new music in. It's like, all right, this one is now a whole new album or a whole new playlist. So it's like, I can't do that, right? But it's like those things are good to get out of my space. Don't connect with anything that his physical expression put out there. That said, I cannot disconnect fully because at this other level, we're always connected, right? And to run from that is to run from myself, right? Because that's been the thing that has literally had me by the hand and is walking me through the hard stuff that I've had to work through in my life. So it's like, I cannot disconnect from the inner masculine, you know, this part that's also an aspect of me. I can't do that because that's just denying myself and running from my truth, right? Because you can't be the full authentic expression of who you are if you don't embrace both your masculine and feminine qualities and bring the two together, right? So it doesn't matter what the hell's going on in his physical world or what shows up in pictures. I just need to not know anything that's going on with that stuff, right? But the energetic level, I can't disconnect. It's like, because that is splitting from me. And I don't remember what the card was that I had pulled this morning, but one of them, or it might have been last night even, but there was something about you looking for happiness outside of yourself, right? Because looking for that speck or hint of things aligning in the physical when that's not for me to know. But then, since this whole thing came up, something that I realized was I have this Twin Flames Ascension Take Me Home Oracle deck that I really like. And in the past couple months, I have pulled this one card on multiple occasions. And I didn't want to look at it because that's not for me, right? I didn't think that maybe it was letting me know something that was going on for him, right? So I'm doing this work and this card keeps coming up and it's like, no, that I don't want that. I reject that. And the card was the false twin flame. And it's like, I know that's not this connection because this connection is the thing that's forced me to come out of hiding within myself, right? It's forced me to do freaking 350 some videos on this YouTube space, right? It's the thing that's literally had me by the hand every single time I've wanted to shut down and go back into hiding or delete everything that I've done and disappear again, right? It's the thing that says, no, you can't do that. So, since obviously he has a girlfriend at this point in time, I was like, okay, so maybe that card wasn't for me, which made me revisit it today. And what it says, I think it makes sense for that connection, right? Because this is a mirrored connection, but everything I've gone through, he still has his own stuff to go through, and however any of that works out for him, that's not for me to know, right? Because we're not in any kind of connection other than this energetic one that cannot be severed. So anyway, the card, I went ahead and wrote the stuff so I could actually read it clearly this time. It says, the lessons you learn from a false twin flame experience can closely mimic a karmic relationship. However, a false twin flame connection is much deeper and will generally come into your life quickly and blindside you like a freight train because the purpose is to create intense change in your life. The purpose of these relationships is to produce an accelerated awakening process. Most often, a twin flame appears after your true twin flame has come into your physical reality. Generally, this type of encounter occurs with the twin flame that is the so-called runner. These connections are very deep and involve an intense physical romantic connection which is necessary to clear any remainder of ego related to chemical love patterns. This card implies that you have attracted someone into your life who represents the deepest, darkest sides of yourself that you have not been willing to acknowledge until now. They have shown up to help you release feelings of despair and not feeling good enough so you can take back your power and align with true love within. Just like, okay, I feel a little better since I read it with that in mind. And then, of course, I wrote all that down so I could share it in this space, since it was something that I wanted to talk about. And then I went ahead and pulled a card for me, right? So with where I'm at, in spite of all this chaos that has come up in the past couple days, which, of course, now that I've sat with things a little bit more, it's not as chaotic, it's not as traumatic, and knowing that, like the purpose is to clear out ego-related stuff that's still there. It's like, the one thing that I know is, like, one of the first things that happened when, I was kind of reading through that was I had these thoughts that were coming up of, can we not let this happen? Can this not happen, right? Like, let's not have him have him knock her up or anything like that, right? It's like, that is not for me. And I think this card might actually speak to that point too, the one that I pulled for myself. But anyway, I was like, one of the things that I was thinking last night too, I talked about how, like, with manifestation times, right? The stuff that he was putting out into the world, like he was, throwing it out into the ethers in case anything actually was out there, right? How the stuff he was saying, or that I came across when I was made aware of what the connection is, I came across in 2023, but he had put most of it out in like 2020, right? So it's like, okay, so there's a 3-year gap on when he put it out there as a manifestation versus when I found it and connected to it. So it's like, all right, on that end, it takes about 3 years apparently before I lined up with the stuff he was putting out there, right? For his manifestation to, like, anything to happen because of it. Well, then I was thinking about the knowings that I talked about yesterday. And, I talked about the 3 knowings that I had my senior year in high school, like the last week of high school. The one where my friend Tyler was going to die in her mid-30s, the one that I was going to be 40 before I started making sense of anything, and the 5 guys in the band, right? So I was thinking about the manifestation thing. And it's like, well, then why do mine take so long? It's like, because of the, and I was looking at the time of knowing that they were going to happen. And then when they actually did happen, it's like, wait a second. It's like, but these aren't manifestations. These weren't things that I wanted. These were things that I knew were going to happen. I didn't know why. I didn't know how we were going to get to any of the stuff where it actually started coming into reality, right? So it's like, it wasn't, and I went ahead and put the time on it, and it was like 16 years before Tyler died, 18 years before the connection to the 5 guys in the band. And that's just the very basic awareness that they are out there connected. I connected with their music, really loved their music, and it was kind of an activation point on waking me up and getting me going on my process. But it was still when I turned 40, and you can't manifest that to happen sooner. So it's like, so those really don't count as manifestations, right? But that was like 21 years. So it's like, still, it's like, those aren't manifestations because they aren't things that I wanted. They were things that I knew were going to happen. And then it was a matter of the time passing to get there, right? And again, like, I never would have wanted Tyler's death as a thing that happened, but it happened to be a thing to help me to heal, because part of the thing that I struggled with was the idea of death, right? Because, we were supposed to prolong my grandfather's life forever, so he didn't die, right? That was just the thing. He didn't want to die. But, so he was sucking the life out of everybody else, so he didn't have to die as quick. Anyway, once I made that connection, it's like, okay, that doesn't count because these aren't manifestations. So then I was thinking about it. It's like, all right, so on the manifestation end, it's like, there was that desk that I was loosely aware that I wanted a different desk, but I hadn't really spent much time on it until I was on Facebook Marketplace and accidentally clicked on one. And it's like, oh, I kind of like that. And I wasn't at the point where I was wanting to buy one, but it got me started because I accidentally sent a message about if it was available. And I think what ended up happening was somebody had already said they wanted to get that one, but he said I would be next in line or something. It's like, all right. It's like, all right, so if this falls through, no big deal. But I started looking at desks, and then I found one that I found a type of desk that I really liked. It was like, it was like the corner, or the L desk, and then it had a hutch on part of it. And I've always liked a good hutch. So like for desks and whatnot, it's like I've always liked the hutch, and preferably where part of it is covered by the hutch, but part of it is not. So I found others that were the same style and the same brand and everything. It's like I found different colors, different places they were at. One was up in Carmel, and it's like, that would be okay. It was like $200. It's like, that's not bad, but I really don't want to take it on all the roundabouts that Carmel has, because I get sick driving through there, just hitting the roundabouts, not having a trailer on the back of the truck with a big ass desk on it, right? So it's like, I would rather find one closer, right? Well, I did find another one. There was one that was like $50, but it didn't have the hutch, and I think it was on like the second floor apartment, and you have to move it on your own to get it down. It's like, not interested in that. And as I was looking through them, and I commented on, or I asked about one that was in Greenwood. I was like, there's still some roundabouts there, but not near as much as going to Carmel, so it's a little bit closer. I was like, I asked her about it, and she said, again, you're second in line, but somebody, ultimately I think was putting money down on it for her to hold it even. But it ended up working out because after I clicked on that one, I found one that was in Connorsville, which is like an hour the other direction, but it was free because they just wanted it out of the house so they could turn their office into another bedroom because they had 5 kids in this little house. I was like, fuck yeah. So I talked to my dad and my uncle, because, that's the handy thing about having family nearby. And we ended up going that night and picking it up, and I got a free desk, right? But that took I think it was 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks from time I accidentally started looking and then actually started looking and then found one for free, because that was the thing when I was looking for it. It's like, yeah, I can pay $200. It's all right. $50. I can, buy a hutch separate. That's no big deal. But it'd be really cool if I could find a free one. And then I found a free one. It's like, hot damn. Okay. But it's a lot easier to manifest things when people aren't involved. So, you can't, especially with a twin flame connection, you can't make that connection happen any quicker. And, there's it takes as long as it takes, right? But the big thing was, if I start freaking out about everything and not surrendering to the process and surrendering to what is, then that unintentionally manifests stuff I wouldn't want, right? So I don't want to take any chances on this. So the biggest thing is I just need to not care, right? Surrender to what is. It's not on me. The universe, is taking the lead on all this shit. Whatever happens, it'll be fine. So the card that I pulled for myself was Enter Your Vortex, aligning with infinite abundance. This says your reality is patiently waiting for you to align with your authentic truth. As you connect with, it's some light blue on this one because I wanted to make sure to differentiate, but it's getting kind of dark. So that's a little less than ideal. And I don't know why these lights haven't come on yet. But anyway, your reality is patiently waiting for you to align with your authentic truth as you connect with your true self, mind, body, heart, and soul. This card is an indication that you are entering your vortex in your highest destiny. This level of soul mastery requires that you let go of resistance to change and keep your soul frequency in a positive state for longer periods of time. This helps you co-create the life you love. Set crystal clear intentions to maximize your ability to manifest your desires. It is important that you stay connected to your heart and practice the harmonic laws of love to balance giving and receiving. Stay present, and allowing your heart to lead you will keep you in alignment with your highest good. Everything exists in your vortex. You become the genie in the bottle and decide what you desire. Kind of screwing with my contacts. So make sure you choose what matches your highest vibration. Otherwise, you will be settling for less than you deserve. Give your reality permission to parallel your inner desires, which allows rewards to show up in ease and grace. And then there were 4 cards at the bottom of the deck that seemed really relevant. So I went ahead and did a little brief overview of those. The first one was the High Priestess. And those are written in black so I can see them a little better. Okay, so the High Priestess, expanding consciousness. Oh, now the light's coming on. You are experiencing life after death, creating a new identity. Trusting yourself helps you make solid decisions that align with your strong intuition. Then it was the Masculine Twin, releasing lower self. It says, surrender control of others or situations, especially where your twin flame is concerned. Focus on your needs. That's the one. That was the one, it was like, if you try worrying about what's going on in his world, then you'll have something to worry about, right? It's like, if you don't worry about it and don't try to manifest that shit, right? Don't allow yourself to accidentally, inadvertently set something into motion because you can't stop obsessing over it. Okay, then the next one was the Chosen One, fast track to ascension. And it says, you have been searching for love outside of yourself. There it is. Pulling you out of alignment with your authentic truth. Okay, so just a review before I get to the last one. High Priestess, which is expanding consciousness. The Masculine Twin, releasing lower self. The Chosen One, fast track to ascension. And then we have King, divine masculine. It says you are aligning with your truth while balancing your emotions. Suggests you create space for your divine masculine partnership by taking personal responsibility and ownership of your destiny. Now is the time to fulfill your greatest potential. Let go of any residual need to control situations or outcomes. Practice habits demonstrating trust in yourself, your abilities, and the unfolding process of your ascension journey. So, yeah, So basically, like, one of the biggest things was when I was skating last night, I really started thinking about, like, the biggest thing that I need to do at this point in time is pull it back to me, right? Focus on me and how to get to whatever the next thing is. And one thing that I know I want to manifest that, I haven't really stayed diligently hopeful of or thinking about, enough. It's like, it's been a while since I've actually thought about this part, because then there was the span of time of, or can we skip this part? And it's like, no, we can't skip this part. We need to do this part, right? So the part we need to do is manifest the existence where I can get out of this space and be in my cottage house in Philly, and do whatever out there that I'm meant to be doing, right? And like, I feel like there are all sorts of, connections that I'm supposed to have out there. I was thinking that, I have a friend from high school that isn't in Philly, but isn't far from it. I think he said he's within an hour. And like, he out of the blue sent me a message a few months back. And we had this good conversation for like this whole night. And it's like, why don't we talk more? And he was one of those people, it's like, I always really liked him. Like, back in high school, he was one of the good guys, right? I talk about the good guys on here a whole lot. The guys that are trying to live their life, do their own thing, and not make it harder for everybody else. I always knew he was one of those. And I don't know if he knew the shit that was, being said about me otherwise. But whenever we would connect in the hallway, it was just making eye contact, wave as we go by or whatever. It's like, he was always nice. He was always, the kind that would wave and, have a nice thing to say to people. Everybody liked him. And then, I don't even know why he sent me a message. We had connected over something with music at some point, I think back in 2023. I think that's what started it. But then we weren't really talking a whole lot, but out of the blue, he sent me a message on Instagram, and then we have this conversation for hours, and he sends me a picture of something at his house. And I don't remember what the context of why he was sending the picture, but I looked behind him and it's like, dude, I said, do you have a coffin shelf on your wall? And he's like, yes. And then sent me a picture of it. And it's like, that confirms that I'm supposed to get this thing, because I had found on this Vampire Freaks page, they had this coffin shelf, and I was like, ooh, I really like that. And I was like, I was debating on getting it. It was in my cart for a while. And I would save it, and then I would pull it back in the cart, and it's like, no. Then I'd save it, and then I'd put it back in the cart, and it's like, man, I really want it, though. So I finally did end up ordering it shortly after our conversation. And it was like all black, so of course the first thing I did was paint it, right? And it kind of matches my lamp that used to be olive drab, but now is currently black aubergine and some burnt orange. So it looks kind of Halloween-y. But I use the same colors because I loved those colors a lot. So that's what my little coffin shelf is. But super stoked. But yeah. But why am I talking about him? I don't know why that came up. Oh, because of Philly. Yeah, but like, just all these different things. It's like, I need to focus on basically focus my attention on the cottage house in Philly. Right? So I was also thinking, how am I going to get there? Right? Because, I could throw all my shit in a moving truck, but I have 3 dogs and 2 birds, and they won't fit in the front of the moving truck like that. It's like when my brother had the moving truck for going out to Oklahoma, I went too, and I had his kid and the dogs in the car, right? And the car was also packed, but yeah, that was, anyway, he's out there, and he was like, oh, anytime you want to come, if you want to just come stay. He's like, I love company. He said, I love cooking. So yeah, he's just a really cool person. But, it's like, that would actually potentially be ideal if I end up in a situation where I can look at a house, right? I can go possibly stay with him for a few days while I'm shopping for a place, and then that would be awesome. You know, I just got to manifest the details to get to that point, like the money, right? So whatever I have to lean into, and that's embracing my inner masculine aspect, you know, the one that I was always not connected to because I was looking for something outside of myself to save me, but it's been inside the whole time, right? So it's like, you know, and there was a span of time last night that I was like thinking about, okay, so is this connection just garbage and we just throw it away now? It's like, nope, that's not it, you know. But I was like just trying to, I don't know, allow space for possibilities to come in, I guess. And it was just like, that was part of the 11-12, is you are trying to, you look for your happiness outside of yourself. It's like, that's the first thing we're not doing anymore. So it's like, bring it back. Another thing, I'm going to end on this one. I thought it really funny. I had some cards out on my desk last night from the Sacred Rebels Oracle, as well as from my Mystic Mondays Tarot. And I decided I wanted to write them, 11111, write them all down in my journal, right? So I have these twin flame books, and I was on book 18, and which that's the moon card. So I wrote those down, and I had several pages left. By the time I got done writing the important stuff from the Sacred Rebels deck and the Mystic Mondays Tarot, I had like 3 pages left. It's like, I'm going to finish this damn book today. It's like this thing that like threw me off actually served the purpose of helping to wrap up. That light is fucked up. That's the problem. Part of it's burnt out. It's like, why does this? Anyway, but yeah, it's like when I actually got all the stuff from the cards written that I wanted to, and then had time to say the last things, like, hey, I'm at this point in time, it's like, with what happened today, I've realized I can't be connected to you at this other level at all. Like this, the physical expression that is you, it's like, I cannot have that at all. And so I scrubbed it. Where did I put my keys? It's like, I could start it and maybe shift over. I don't know. Yeah, that's not gonna help me here. But just back over here. But yeah, I was just like, I can't do this. It's like, I have to not be connected to any of your stuff, anything where you're at, right? It's like your physical expression, I am not interested at this point in time. I don't want to know what's going on. I can't know what's going on. I have to focus on me and bring it all back to me, right? So yeah, so it's like, I thought it was really fitting that I closed out the moon book. And these are just, you know, because I've written so many of them at this point. You know, that was 18. I started 19 today. And it's like 19 to go along with the sun card, to go along with self-expression and bringing it back to me. And, you know, getting ready to start the new year and being ready to focus on aligning with the stuff to manifest the life that I want to, and the cottage house in Philly and all this stuff, right? And get to where I'm meant to be going in the next space, right? Work on the what I can do with the physical stuff, right? So that's been a big part, is bring the daydreams and the visions into the space where they can become reality too. So that's focusing on me and what I'm building, right? So I was talking about building my brand and focusing on that kind of stuff and focusing on the writing more. It's like, these are the physical things that I need to start doing to make anything else even a remote possibility. And go along with the 11-12, I also you know, in that same time frame, I found a video on YouTube that I decided to watch and ended up in the comments, and there was somebody had 6819 in the in their username. It's like, so there's his birthday, right? 819, right there in front of me. And it's like, oh, you know, because that was still at the time that I was trying to run from that space. It's like, can't run. You know, it's like the connection is there one way or another. This is an aspect of you that you have to embrace and let the physical expression do whatever the physical expression is meant to do at this point in time to close out whatever needs to be closed out in his space, right? This whole past, you know, 2+ years has been focused on my healing. And this has been a means of doing that. But again, you know, at some point I feel like he will probably come across the across my channel, and then it's like, oh, as he wanders down the rabbit hole after he figures out who I am, you know, but at least the universe, I've put it out there for the universe to put it in front of him whenever the time's right, right? And so there's been times where I've wondered if maybe he's had it. It's like, and then others, it's like, I don't feel like that's the case just yet. But either way, disconnecting fully from all things that show any hints of him. And I think, you know, I even have a couple band shirts and whatnot that are going into storage. And storage in the closet, right? And I was thinking last night I would go ahead and put books 1 through 18 in the closet as well, you know, to further separate it from the current space so I can focus on what I need to focus on and then not worry about the rest. But I think I already went further than I said I was going to, because I said that was the last thing. But either way, that's going to be the last thing. And as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time, see ya.